We hear it all the time. Housing is unaffordable. First home buyers don't stand a chance. But is that the full story, or is it the narrative itself that's stopping people from taking action? That's what this week's episode is all about.
Today we're talking about healthy home buying habits and mindset. In an environment where we all hear on the news how impossible it is to buy a home, don't let the media talk you out of buying. Welcome to Your First Home Buyer Guide, the podcast for first home buyers who want to become educated home buyers.
I'm Veronica and that was Megan. We are two of Australia's most experienced buyer's agents and probably old enough to be your mum, which is a good thing because between us, we've got almost 50 years experience to share with you, and together we're going to cut through the BS and make sure that you're well informed so you make better decisions.
Now, when you get to the end of this episode, make sure you check out the website homebuyeracademy.com.au. Take a look at our course for first home buyers.
We've created an easy-to-follow course that builds on all of our professional experience to take you step by step through the whole home buying journey.
You'll know exactly what to do, when to do it, and be able to find your first home faster and easier with our guidance along the way.
It's the next best thing to having your very own buyer's agent.
Now, before we get into the interesting stuff, in this week's episode, there's the boring bit to do, and that's the disclaimer.
You, of course, know that nothing in this podcast is to be taken as personal advice. We always recommend getting the advice of an expert in their field who takes their time to personally understand your situation. Now, we've done our very best to ensure that the content is correct at the time of recording, but things change rapidly, so always check with the relevant government authority or your trusted advisors, or both, to get the most up-to-date information. Now, every week we talk about which step are we covering in this week's episode in terms of the PACE system. So PACE is our system that we teach in the First Home Buyer course. PACE is preparation, action, commitment, execution. There are 10 steps, and I'm trying to work out where this one fits.
I think mindset is across the whole thing.
It is across the whole thing. That's actually a really good point. So let's sort of dig into this. I was actually listening to, I think it was a financial planner on a podcast. That's what got me thinking about this as a good topic for an episode, because he was saying that, look, you know, a lot of first home or would-be first home buyers has sort of given up on the idea of buying a home because of all the negative press around it. And so therefore they don't engage in the behaviours that they need to engage in order to be able to buy a home. So it's like his self-fulfilling prophecy. And I thought, well, we should talk about this because I'm sure this is quite common. And I would imagine it myself if I was a young person thinking, oh, it's all too hard. Why bother?
Yeah. And look, media messages are very powerful, but they're not the whole truth. Now, I have to say, I want to sort of start by saying not everybody will own their own property in their lifetime. And that's okay. Yep. It shouldn't be an expectation placed upon you by a societal norm that you should own a property. But if you want to, that's what we're talking about. If you want to, these are the kind of healthy habits. Now, the media talks about the housing crisis, you know, those headlines that can make home ownership feel really, really completely out of reach. And I think that is so disheartening to read over and over and over again, because we know both in our buyer's agency businesses and through Home Buyer Academy and the First Home Buyer course, we know that people are buying their first homes. They're doing it.
Yep.
It is happening.
They are doing it. In fact, there's over 100,000 Australians every year, in fact, it can be up to 160,000, buy their first home. And not everyone is getting help from mum and dad. So it's not like you go, oh, well, that's just all the people are getting help. You know, some of the people in the course have been good little savers since university. And even if you haven't, you know, there's other ways to do it. But like there's amazing that people that have done this even on their own without huge incomes. So it is possible. Affordability obviously is a real issue, certainly in some areas more than others. I mean, Sydney is a shocker, let's face it. But there are still buyers entering the market, and the key is having the right strategy and the mindset to do it.
And this is what we talk about, mindset. Like, you can't set a goal for yourself that is so unobtainable and then not have some steps in place to work out whether you can do that or can't do it. Sometimes it is lovely to dream and, I'd love to have a house on Hedges Avenue and I'd love to have a helicopter trip to Brisbane every day to go to work. It's just not going to happen, nor have I put any plans in place to make that happen. It's a dream. I like thinking about it. It makes me feel good, but I don't feel bad because I haven't obtained it. Because what I have focused on are the dreams that I've got, which is building a family home that I feel really proud of and that my children love, and I can have lots of people here at any point in time, and it doesn't feel overfilled. It feels really comfortable. That's my dream and that's what I've achieved. But I put a lot of steps in place and had the mindset to make sure that I kept doing the things that I needed to do to get there. And that's really how you start that home buying journey from a mindset perspective.
Because there is a real danger in internalizing hopelessness, because if you believe you can't buy, then you're not going to behave like somebody who might buy. Let's face it, if I thought I was never going to be able to buy a home and, some of my friends said, oh, let's go overseas, let's just go and spend everything we earn. Because what's the point? And I could totally understand people thinking that because of all the, as I said, if you believe the negativity of the press. But the problem is then that just leads to lifestyle inflation. You spend more on travel, Uber Eats,
handbags, shoes,
new phones, all the stuff that because you've given up on the long-term goal, you're just going sort of for that short-term hedonism.
Which feels good in the short term. And it is great to build memories, and certainly we encourage people to have experiences as well as property. It's not just about having that. You've got to have that right balance. But I guess what we're talking about is the mindset here of setting up good habits so that if this is what you want to do, if having a property is what you want to do, you've got to take all those little steps along the way and make those sacrifices along the way, because, it can be a real self-fulfilling prophecy. You won't be able to buy if you don't start planning for it and then taking each of the steps along the way to actually get there.
That's it. Now, mindset is really important, and also sort of resilience, because you're probably not going to be able to buy tomorrow. I mean, let's face it. You don't just say, all right, well, I'm just going to make my mind up now and I'm going to be able to buy because I make my mind up. It doesn't actually quite work that way. But you do need to start thinking like somebody who will buy at some point. It really is about getting your head out of that, oh, it's never going to happen, I'm never going to be able to do it, to actually I can do this if I set things in place and if I start behaving like somebody who can do it, as opposed to somebody who is just a good time gal, which can be fun. I mean, don't get me wrong, you want to have fun. But you don't want to blow everything, right?
But you need to work out what you can sacrifice, what you can give up. And everything in life is a sacrifice. There are very few people who walk into a fully set up portfolio where the money is rolling in and they have a wonderful house. That's just not the reality for most people. So have the strong savings plans, set up those habits, because if you really do want to be a homeowner, you're going to have to continue those habits. You're going to have to learn how to budget really well, how to determine what to go for, what to buy and what not to buy. It may be that your clothing budget is decreased. It may be that your going out budget is decreased. It may be that rather than doing 12 concerts a month, you're going to go down to 12 a year. So it's just working out where the compromises are and then setting up your plans for that long-term goal.
And we did do an episode a few weeks back about the dangers of relying on the bank of mum and dad, because, of course, without these good habits in place, I mean, there's a high risk of default in loans for first-home buyers who have help from their parents than there is from those who saved up themselves. That's all back to that habit. But for a lot of us who don't get help from our parents or can't get help from your parents, you've got to have those savings in place. As I said before, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You aren't going to get to home ownership. These are really important things. Another thing that I hear a lot, and I'm sure you do too, is, woe is me, the boomers got it easier and all those bastards are out there and they've got so much at our expense. Now, they don't actually have it at your expense, because I had it because I bought it 40 or 50 years ago, and compounding is where it does magic, right? That's the real reason they've got wealth, right? If they've bought property.
There's fewer temptations too.
Well, that's the thing. This is the thing that we often don't think about, right? Like, honestly, my parents are boomers, right? And they went on their first overseas trip, honestly, and I'm not advocating this because I do not do this, but they went in their 70s. Like, they just had lower expectations of life. We never got takeaway. And I'm not saying, we should be living frugally, although there are whole frugal, what they call the FIRE movement. There are frugal movements, right, that probably think the same way. But this is the way boomers were, it's the way they were brought up. There was no such thing as Afterpay. In fact, they didn't have overseas trips every year, in fact, ever. But also the thing with Afterpay, it's funny, there was a thing called lay-by. Do you remember lay-by?
Absolutely, I remember lay-by. I remember lay-buying toys. I'd certainly know that Mum, when she was doing the Christmas shopping, she would do lay-by and it would be paid off for a period of time leading up to Christmas.
But you didn't get the goods till you paid them off. They sat in a storeroom at the back of the department store.
Yes.
Which, we know now that with funnily enough, the rising cost of property means that no department store wants to have all that extra space. So, plus they can charge for credit. But I mean, the point being that they did live very differently. So when we're sort of running around saying, oh, it's all right for the boomers and they stole our future, I don't think that's helpful. When we're talking about a mindset, wasting energy and spending time really begrudging another generation where their lives were different. And it doesn't help. It actually doesn't help you get where you want to be any closer.
Yep. So it's a little bit of a shift in mindset there. Social media and modern marketing encourage us to get instant gratification. But buying a home actually requires a very delayed gratification. It is a very long-term strategy. My children watch some of these videos where people trade up. They start with a pen and they trade up to a car. You can't kind of trade up to a house very reliably. I'm sure somebody will tell me that somebody has, because that's what happens. But it is very easy to slip into that, oh, I'll never be able to be like that. I'll never have what they've got. And it used to be called keeping up with the Joneses. It's probably called something vastly different now, but it's in our face a lot more now. It used to be when you walk down the street and say, oh, that's a really nice house. Oh, wow, they've got a really nice car. But it's in our lounge room. It's in our bedroom. It's on our phone all the time now going, why haven't you done this? I've done it. Look at me. Yeah. I've done it. Why haven't you done it?
And there is a lot of that. There is absolutely a lot of that. And it's that sort of influencer mindset or whatever. I don't know. It is a different thing that you guys, younger generation, has to contend with that we didn't have to contend with. And I do think that can play into feeling like you can't do it, feeling like you're behind the eight ball. Particularly in the property space, for example, we see it online. We see a lot of people flashing around what they do have, but in reality, do they really have it? You know what I mean? It's like, all the flash cars and all that sort of stuff. Did they lease it for the weekend? So I just think sometimes you've just got to get back to basics in many ways and choosing a more modest lifestyle today that will give you options tomorrow. And it might feel a bit annoying because you can see all these people having the high life and, they're all on Corfu at the moment, aren't they? Or in the Mediterranean somewhere because we're all here in winter. Oh,
but
God.
it's a good point, giving something up today. And as I said, like I couldn't live frugally. I'm certainly not somebody who will grow my own vegetables to cut my grocery bill, but I will make changes to what cut of meat I get or what the meal plan is or how often we go out or what the entertainment options are. These are the sorts of things that you can adjust if you've got that long-term plan in mind and you focus on your habits, not just the hype, around what you're doing. So stop waiting for the perfect time or thinking the government will fix things for you or there'll be a new grant if I wait. There'll be an incentive that maybe will just top things up for me. That doesn't give you good habits.
No, because if you're thinking you want to be rescued, you're not going to be the one that actually does the things that need to be done in order to get you where you want to be. And it comes down to what your priorities are as well. Like if really for you buying a home is not that important, it's going to be impossible to make the sacrifices. But also, if you've given up because you really just think it's never going to happen, again, it's going to be impossible for you to make these behavioural changes and make the sacrifices. But if you do want to, and it's a real big want for you, and you think, you know what, I am prepared to do what I need to do, and I get it that I've got to pull my belt in and suck it up for a bit, then start by building some healthy habits. Track your spending, build your deposit, have a separate fund and be really strict and really understand your borrowing power as well. So to get your head around the money side of things.
I heard something really interesting the other day. I quite like Mel Robbins and listened to her podcast and she was interviewing somebody who said you sort of build your habits. It was unrelated to property, but you've got to build your habits over time. But if you feel really disheartened because this day you got it wrong, let's say you succumbed to a really fabulous piece of marketing and blew a couple of $1,000s out of your savings, just because you got it wrong on that day doesn't mean you cannot get back on track the next day and continue your habits. So it's a learning opportunity that maybe next time you don't go down that rabbit hole of getting excited about something that might cost you money and stop you from your long-term path. But it doesn't mean that you throw your hands up in the air and say, I'm never going to be able to do this. You can get back on track and keep building and keep reinforcing those habits.
Again, that's a sort of fatalistic sort of mindset that some people do have. It's like, oh, that's it. I've done it now. I've blown it. It's like, yes, you blew it today, but get back on the bike. And it's a little bit like, I confess that I've been a sloth for about 4 years after COVID. I hadn't been in the gym for 4 whole years. And I felt it in every cell of my body and I did not like it. And I didn't see myself as an unfit person, but for 4 years I'd acted like one. And so, of course, I was never going to get strong and fit again if I never went back to the gym. So I had to start. They talk about, there's another book called Atomic Habits, and he talks about habit stacking. And so for the gym, habit stacking is, well, you set your alarm at a time. That means that if you get out of bed and get to the gym and get back, you got time to get ready for work. So that's the first thing. But then you actually have your gym gear and your shoes and socks and everything sitting next to the bed. So when you get out of bed, you just put them on. And so it's about sort of this one little habit then leads to the next little habit. And it's sort of, it breaks down the big, huge thing, which was getting back to the gym. Now, I've been back at the gym now since last September. What are we? We're coming up to 12 months and I'm loving it and I'm great and I will never go back to being a sloth. But it took the mindset first to decide, okay, enough, I'm going to do it. And I'd spent 4 years not doing it. You can get back on the right path.
And if you don't go to the gym one day, it doesn't mean that you have failed.
No.
It actually just means, all right, what happened on that day? It was just a bad day. All right, well, what can I think about differently if I feel like that another time? And give yourself grace.
One slack weekend or whatever doesn't undo all the good work I've done up to that point. And in fact, I've actually got muscle memory too. That's the other thing too. It's like, yes, I've got muscle memory because I used to be fit and my body remembers. So when you are saving and when you are sort of focusing on your big long-term goal, you can think of me going back to the gym and hopefully that will motivate you.
That's something that they'll love having on their shoulder when they're thinking about their spending habits.
That's it.
And their mindset. Now, importantly, you don't have to go alone, okay? It's almost like having a gym buddy. It's like having someone who's sort of finding people who are positive and knowledgeable and they want what's best for you, not just online doom and gloom that is going to tell you you can't do it, you might as well give up now. Find those people who encourage you and say, oh, well done, you're on the way, that's fantastic. Oh, I'm a bit inspired, I might do it too. Like those are the kind of people that you want to have conversations with.
Or maybe they have done it because, like you can sort of wallow in wishful thinking and not actually have any action. No practical action, or you can wallow in negativity like it's never going to happen, woe is me, and it's all unfair and blame the boomers. Again, you're with the wrong sort of group of people, aren't you? You need to surround yourself with people who are can do and they've got something you aspire to as well. And of course, you're listening to this podcast, which is fantastic. And we've got the First Home Buyer course, which is designed to help you. So find mentors, professionals, communities that support your home ownership goal. And we have one right here for you.
Absolutely. And that helps you take confident steps towards buying. And even in a really challenging market, you can keep on track because it is really hard to hear every day, all the time in the media, prices are going up, prices are going up. Yeah, okay, they're going up. You can keep going if you keep those habits going and surround yourself with like-minded people.
Yeah. So if you are feeling discouraged, we really encourage you to flip the script, right? Because it is about looking at what you can do, what you can control, rather than just looking at the whole property market as one big behemoth that you can't control, which you can't. You actually cannot control the market. But there are things that you can do within your own agency, if you like, and, you can get the right mindset. You can make a decision about this. You get a plan. You might find that home ownership is not as far away as you think.
Too many first home buyers are leaving money on the table and hurting their future selves because they don't know how to do things in the right order. That's what we do. We teach you the exact steps you need to take and support you along the way.
We help you move from a state of information overload to feeling excited and in control. You'll learn a clear step-by-step process that takes the guesswork out of buying your first home. You'll know exactly what to look for, who to talk to, and how to navigate every stage with confidence, avoiding costly rookie mistakes along the way.
We've created your First Home Buyer course, a 10-module self-paced course plus online mentoring. Now, the course only costs $990 and you get direct, access to us every week. You can share the link of any property you're thinking of buying, and we can help you work out whether it's an A, B, or C grade or a no-go zone. We even help guide you through your negotiations.
Trust us, you will buy a hell of a lot better with our guidance, and you'll overpay a lot more than the cost of the course if you don't know what you're doing.
Thanks for joining us. If you've enjoyed this podcast, we encourage you to join our Facebook group. It's called Your First Home Buyer Guide Australia, and it's your opportunity to connect with us and ask us your questions, which we will answer, meaning you can make sure that you're not getting led down the garden path. We hope to see you there soon.